Hello everyone, today I'm doing something a little bit different. I'm going to be making some cards. So I have all of these sticker sheets and die cuts and papers and whatnot from the Here Comes the Sun collection from Pretty Little Studio. And I thought I have so many things from this collection that it's very unlikely I'm going to be able to use all of it for scrapbooking. I do plan to scrapbook with it, and I do have a project in mind. But I thought I would make a couple of cards because I need some cards. I have to send out some cards pretty soon, so I thought I would make some. So I'm starting by having a look through the die cuts because I'm most likely to want to use some die cuts on these cards. Anybody who follows me knows that I don't make a whole lot of cards and I don't have a whole lot of confidence in my card making. What I mean by that is, I often say I'm not good at making cards, and then people say, oh, your cards turn out fine. And yeah, I guess they do turn out fine. Like, I don't dislike the cards that I make. And many of the cards that I make, I actually really love. But what I mean when I say I'm not a good card maker, I mean it doesn't come naturally to me, and it's not easy for me to put together a card. It's something that I really have to think hard about, and it takes a lot of time and consideration for me to make a card. Compared to, I'm guessing that people who make cards all the time probably just have a better eye and a better sense of how to put together items to make a nice card. And I just don't spend the time making cards, so I haven't developed that skill. So here I am, I'm thinking I definitely want to use some of these cute little flamingos. And it's from so there are all these subsets of die cuts, and this is from the main Here Comes the Sun die cut set. And it has this little phrase that says, it takes sunshine and rain to make rainbows. And there are no rainbows in any of the die cuts, but I thought it would be cute to make it look like this flamingo is saying that. And so I thought maybe I could have like clouds, and I was thinking, what would I do for raindrops? Because I feel like I want some raindrops on this card. So I took a look. I thought I might have some raindrops in wood veneer, but it turns out I don't. I do have those little wood veneers that have like umbrellas and clouds, but I actually already used all the raindrops from that set. So I thought if I put some geotags upside down, they look a lot like raindrops, but the raindrops are pretty huge compared to the flamingo. So then I thought I would do these punch hearts, these heart punches, and I could punch out the little tiny confetti hearts and put them upside down and use them as raindrops. And then I noticed that one of the cards has raindrops on it. So I thought maybe that will be a nice background, then I don't have to figure out how to make raindrops. So now this little photo album book just holds all of my smaller dies. So what I do is I keep a subset of dies, any die that fits through this smaller die cut machine. This is a Cuddle Kid machine, and this I just keep on my desktop right beside where I work. And anything that fits through this machine I put in this little book. And I like being able to flip through it and just pick out the ones that suit me. So I started by making an oval out of those raindrops, and now I have this light gray cardstock, and it actually is really pretty. It has like a shimmery finish to it. It's really gorgeous. You can't see it in this video, but it's very, very pretty. It's almost a shame to cover so much of it up with this oval, but I really like how that looks, that gray scallop edge around the outside of that raindrop oval. And of course the gray kind of picks up on the idea of gray skies and cloudiness and whatnot. I wanted the flamingo to stand out a little bit, and so I took my 0.005 pen, and I'm just outlining it. I was hesitant to outline it because MercyTiara artwork is just so beautiful. I didn't want to ruin it, but I did want him to stand out a little bit. So I did go ahead and outline him, and it looks okay. But if I had used a thicker pen, it would have been really difficult. I find that having multiple small die cuts on my table and having my desk really covered in lots of interesting things is a sure way to get my cat's attention and have her accompany me for most of the day. She is pretty relentless in terms of wanting to play with things on my table and wanting my attention. I'm going to try to ignore her for a little while here. She doesn't like that, but I'm going to try. So I keep moving her and she keeps coming back. But anyhow, hopefully she's not too distracting to you guys. I tried to not let her be distracting to me either. So I'm stapling just a little phrase onto the card. It's from the phrase sticker sheet, and it says never give up. I just use my tiny attacher to, it's more for decoration because those are stickers, so it's going to stay in place. Now, I would like the flamingo's head to be amongst, kind of like, I guess, under the cloud. And yeah, so I'm going to fuss around a little bit with placement to try to, I would rather have the flamingo be off to the side a little bit more than he is right now. And then by the time I glue it all down, it's not going to be placed in the place that I really want it to be, but it's okay. I would much rather have the flamingo be off to the left more than he ends up. So he's going to end up pretty close to where he's at right now, which is not what I want, but you'd think that since I'm the one making the card, it would be where I want it to be, but I somehow forgot the placement that I had decided upon. This works okay. It looks all right. There we go. So he's a little too centered, but that's okay. At least his cute little head is showing. So now I have a tip for you. If you don't know how to kind of scatter stickers on something, you can always follow the sticker sheet. So the sticker sheet had 1 star up by itself and then 2 stars down, kind of staggered at an angle to one another. So I just copied that design and put it around my title. And I also added 2 clear sticker hearts just to the cloud as well. And now I'm just assembling everything. I'm putting it on this card blank. I think I showed you at the beginning. It's a little cardstock pad by Pebbles, and these cards are the perfect size for an A2 card, and they are pre-scored. So, and also the inside of these cards are white. So that means that you don't have to line it if you don't want to. I say that they're pre-made to the right size for an A2 card, but they actually don't fit in my A2 Stampin' Up! Envelopes all that well, so I'm trimming a tiny bit off the bottom edge of these cards before I use them. Although if I use it sideways like this, then I'm cutting it off of the side edge. So I want to use this larger flamingo for this one. And I'm just going to mess around a little bit with a whole lot of different options here. And then I find, oh, I really love this paper. This is the paper that I went on and on about, and I love it so much. But when I first reviewed this collection, so I decided to use a sticker here for the flamingo instead of the larger die cut one, because the larger die cut one wouldn't fit on this card, and I just fell in love with this card as soon as I saw it. So I'm just trimming it down to 5 1/4 by 4, which is the size of kind of like the front of it. It's the size of an A2 card, but with a little border around the edge of it. So it is 1/4 of an inch smaller than an A2 card, is what I'm trying to say. So now I'm deciding to use those upside down hearts as teardrops, or not as teardrops, but as raindrops. I've done this before in my scrapbook and in my art journal when I don't have tears or raindrops. And you do have to really press hard on these confetti punches. So I wasn't pressing quite hard enough at first. So I just made a bunch of hearts. And now what I'm actually going to do here is I'm going to put a whole bunch of dots with my Tombow Mono multi-glue. And then I can just, as long as I move fairly quickly, I can just put each of these hearts, upside down hearts, in the glue and it'll stick in place. And they look a little bit like they're raindrops. Not exactly, but it looks, you can kind of get the gist of what I'm going for. I really like it, actually. And so I decided I do want to put a couple on the other side of the flamingo. I don't want it to just be raining on one side of him. There's clouds above him on this side, so I wanted to have some raindrops coming from those clouds as well. So there we go. And I think that looks really, really cute. So I'll do some outlining on it. Outlining the clouds, and I'm using my Sharpie marker, so I'm not using that super fine one, the 0.005. I'm just using the Sharpie, which I think is 0.03 or something like that. Outline all of those clouds, and then the flamingo I'm thinking about outlining, but first I decided to use my Wink of Stella marker, which I have the clear one, but I'm using a pink one here, and it's actually giving a little bit of a watercolor effect to these pink punched hearts, which makes the hearts really look quite cute with the rest of the card, which obviously has lots of watercolor elements on it. So I'm looking for a phrase to put on one of the clouds, and I grabbed this one. It says, "Hold on to your dreams." And I stapled it with my tiny attacher. And now I'm just going to stick this card onto the card base. That's another one of those pebbles bases. I'm outlining again with my Sharpie marker, just double outlining. And that's about it. I do enjoy the look of sewing around the edges of a card, but I'm trying to make lots of cards fairly quickly, so I'm skipping any really labor-intensive details. But I still want the cards to look nice, so I'm not skipping all of the details, like outlining, for example. And now I decided to use this die cut phrase on the inside of this card. I just slapped it on in the center. And now that's 2 cards done. I keep coming back to that little square, which is a scrap of paper of pattern paper from the collection, from the scrapbooking page that I made with the collection. And so now I'm trying to think about what kind of a card base I'm going to use. And so I have these card bases that I just bought at Michael's. It's just like a big set of card bases, but they're not foldable card bases. They're just plain card bases, like single pieces of paper. And they're almost the right size to use as a mat for a card. So I just trimmed it down so that it is the right size. And it's this really pretty silver color. I really like it. So I will compose my card on this, and then I'll put it on a card blank later. So I'm going to layer some clouds together. So I have a sticker cloud and a die cut cloud, and the stickers are smaller than the die cuts in these collections. So it's a nice way to get a variety of different sizes. Now this sun is just way too enormous for the size of the flamingo that I have. So I switched to the sticker sun because it's a smaller size. Works really well. Now I'm pop dotting just the top of that cloud because at this point I'm thinking I probably don't want to pop dot the flamingo because it seems like it would be kind of finicky to pop dot. But then I decide to pop dot it anyways. So I'm just going to cut some of the edges of my Stampin' Up! Dimensional adhesive because the edges give you just smaller little pieces. And so I'm going to put little narrow pieces on his neck and on his legs, just so that he holds up in the mail. I am going to pop these cards in the mail, so I want them to stand up to some handling by the postal system. And there we go. I think that looks really cute. I adore that flamingo. And I didn't want to outline this flamingo because I really, as I said, I really love the look of MercyTiara's artwork, and I don't want to muck it up with outlines on everything. Now I'm taking my white gel pen and I'm outlining all the way around the edge of this silver cardstock. And I really like how that looks. It's a very subtle detail and I quite like it. And now I'm going to add this Here Comes the Sun because, you know, the sun is coming through the parting clouds. It's a nice hopeful message for a card. And I only outlined the sun, and the reason I did that was to just so that Here Comes the Sun wasn't the only black on the card. I wanted something else black, so outlining the sun got me that. And now I just left that card without a card base, so it's basically just the matte, like the inside part of the, not the inside, but the matte part of the card. Anyhow, I do still have to put it on a card. I'll do that at the very end. So now I've moved on from the flamingos, and I feel like I really want to use these hot air balloons. So I'm just, again, having a look through the cards that I have. I have 4x6 cards, and I have some 8x8 paper as well. So I'm just looking at all of the options and trying to decide what I want to do. I really want to use this this hot air balloon, and I feel like this card doesn't have to have a whole lot on it because this hot air balloon is pretty big and you don't really need to put a whole lot on a card. So I've decided to just use the hot air balloon and the word fly. Now I'm thinking about putting some clouds behind my hot air balloon, and I don't like that. Nope, don't like it at all. So I'm going to peel all of those off. Luckily, these stickers are really forgiving. They come off really easily and they don't rip the paper underneath, as long as you're careful about it. So I'm thinking it just, like, I don't like how plain it is, just the hot air balloon on the white background. It's just, I don't know, I don't like it. So I found this higher paper and I thought it's kind of like fly higher, kind of like it's a nice message. So I'm going to cut it at 5 1/4 by 4, and I'm going to make 2 of them while I'm at it because it's easy to do that. And I know that I have other hot air balloons that I can use. So if I make one card like this, I'll just go ahead and make 2. So I'm outlining the hot air balloon so that it stands up a little bit more, so that there's more contrast between the hot air balloon and the higher pattern paper behind it with the word higher all over it. And I'm trying to think about what I'm going to do here, and I decided to add some paint. And I didn't want to have to clean a paintbrush, clean up my work surface and stuff afterwards. So this is the tool that is the best that makes for the easiest cleanup ever, and that is just using your finger to smear some paint around. Paint comes off your finger so easily with a baby wipe, and you don't have to clean it and rinse it and let it dry. So I very much prefer a finger to a paintbrush whenever possible. And it also gives a nice soft edge, and you can control the paint, and there's no brush strokes or anything. It's actually a really nice way to add paint to something. Now, adding that white paint, what it does is it allows a little bit more contrast between my hot air balloon and the pattern paper below it. So then I'm going to pop up the word fly and just put it like that. And I'm having a lot of fun using my scrapbooking supplies to make cards. It's actually quite fun. So I have that other higher pattern paper, so I decided I'm just going to do the exact same thing, use the exact same high-tech tool for applying paint. And when I go, I just need a little bit more paint at the top once I took a look at that hot air balloon again, because it's just white and that pink color, so I just needed a little bit more contrast. Speaking of contrast, I will also outline this, and I'm outlining it in a heavier kind of a way. So I'm going back and forth and trying to get a heavier, sketchy kind of a line. I'm going to hit that with my heat tool. And it was dry a long time ago, but I didn't realize it. So once I tested it, it's like really, really dry. It's bone dry. So there we go. And now I thought, just for a little bit of extra interest, and this ended up not adding anything at all to the card, so this is something I would skip next time. I thought I would add some splatter, some just tone on tone, some white splatter, which sometimes white splatter looks really nice on a thin coat of paint, but it's so much of it is going to end up being covered by the hot air balloon that it doesn't really matter. It doesn't make that much of an impact. But I did it, so I'll dry it. And now I'm going to just got to clean up my fingers so I don't get white all over the place. And now I'm going to add that hot air balloon. And I put it just slightly over to the left-hand side because I'm going to put some type of something, I don't know what, over on the right side. So I really am not liking the just pink and white look of this. So I grabbed one of my Stampin' Write markers, which has brush end on one side and just a marker tip on the other for like journaling or drawing. And so these markers are not the greatest for blending. Like when you go over them twice, you tend to see that overlapping line. But for coloring such a small amount of space, and I just really wanted to do it really quickly, it does a pretty good job. It doesn't do a bad job. And once it dries, it actually does spread out quite nicely, and it ends up with pretty good coverage. You'll see it in the photos at the end. And keeping in mind that it doesn't have to look perfect because all of these embellishments have that watercolored imperfect look to them anyways. So I'm just layering a die cut piece with a little sticker that says beauty. And that gives that hot air balloon a little bit more color by adding the green stripes to it. Now I noticed there's another raindrop card here, so I thought maybe I'll pull in another flamingo. I'm going to cut it down to a card insert size, like that 5 1/4 by 4 inch size, so that I can use it as a mat for a card. And I'm just having a look at where everything is and what I have left and what I have used. And at some point I can just mix all of these die cut pieces and sticker sets together, but for now I am keeping them separate because I just don't want to. First of all, I want to be able to tell you what I'm using if I scrapbook again with this, but also, when I scrapbook again with this, but also it's easier to find things because they're in categories, like all the coffee ones are together and all the cactus ones are together. And so I'm trying to keep them in their separate piles as much as I can. So for this one, I started with a sun sticker, and then I switched to the sun die cut because it was a little bit bigger. And pardon me, I'm just covering it up with a whole bunch of clouds, and I'm using the sticker clouds close to the sun because they're supposed to be further away because they're smaller. And then I'm using the die cut clouds, which are larger, as you kind of go away from the sun. And I'm just piling them all up so that they're really layered, so that it looks like the sun is, breaking through a really, really cloudy day. And I added that Here Comes the Sun sticker. And this little heart die cut was stuck to the cloud. Not stuck, but it was just kind of like clinging to it. So I thought it looked really cute, so I added it there. And it brings attention to the title as well. Now I'm going to outline the sun because the sun is sort of the main part of this card, like it's the main subject of the card. And now I have more Wink of Stella. I have just a few Wink of Stellas. I have them in pink and I have them in gold and in yellow. So I'm just adding the Wink of Stella to the sun in the yellow, which gives it a bit of a shimmery, glittery kind of effect. And it also deepens the yellow a little bit, which is quite nice. And again, I want to emphasize that sun, so I decided to put another heart on it, and it's just the little sticker version of the larger heart that I have down further on the card. And now I'm adding a little sentiment to that cloud in the front that says "Believe you can." And now that one is done. So now I'm going to put a card base on this one. The silver one I decided to put on a black card. And I am going to put liners on the insides of the cards too. And then I was going to put this one on a yellow card. And these are just card bases that I had in my stash. I make card bases in bulk every once in a while, and so these are just from my stash. Now, I thought that this one needed a double matting, so I'm putting a very, very thin mat of black, just with a piece of black cardstock from my stash. Very thin. And then I'll put that on the yellow card base. I love how that looks. It really emphasizes the yellow and black that is in the card. I really like that. And now I have these white card bases. They're just American Crafts cardstock. I prefer using Stampin' Up! Cardstock for my card bases because they are sturdier. But anyhow, so here are how all the cards look in the end. Thanks so much for watching, and have a really great scrappy week.